بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I would like to welcome everyone to our presentation on the spiritual journey of Umrah, where we'll be covering both the spiritual aspects of the Umrah journey to Makkah as well as the journey to Medina. Inshallah ta'ala. I would also like to point out that this meeting is being recorded, so if for any reason you miss anything, you can always go back and watch the recording. So without further ado, I'd like to take this chance to welcome everyone to this trip that we'll be taking, as well as to this seminar. And inshallah, you can hold off your questions until the end. Once we're through the presentation, we will have a question and answer session at the end where you can come onto the mic or even leave your messages in the chat, inshallah ta'ala. So before we actually start our journey, it's really important for us to think about what the reason is and why we are going on this journey. What are the benefits of our Umrah? So it says in a hadith of Bukhari and Muslim that what comes between one Umrah and another is an expiation for the sins that are committed between the two. So it helps us get our sins forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as cleanses our soul. It draws us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because we're doing acts of worship and we are both physically and financially putting ourselves in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship Him and to get closer to Him, right? And lastly, Umrah protects from poverty. It says that if a person is afflicted, that through the benefit or through the virtues of Umrah, they will also have their afflictions lifted, right? And so we keep all of these benefits and virtues in mind when we begin our journey, and we make the intention that, oh Allah, I'm making this journey for you, so please also benefit me in these ways, that forgive for me my sins, clean for me my soul, draw me close to you, protect me from poverty. All right, so when we go on Umrah, very, very important aspect is the ihram. A lot of times there's a misconception as to what ihram is. Ihram is a state of being, both of mind and body, which we use or which we enter before, Hajj or Umrah, and it actually comes from the word haram. Many of us know the word haram to mean forbidden, right? And so what we're doing is essentially we're making things which would normally be allowed for us forbidden on us, right? And so because we are going from the outside lands, right, to Makkah, we will be entering the state of ihram. So many of us will be on the plane, and so we'll enter the state of ihram on the plane. Some of us will be coming by land, and that's okay as well. We will be entering the state of ihram at whichever point, whether you're in the air or on the land. That point at which you cross, at which point you must have ihram on before going on to Makkah, is called the miqat. So a little bit about what the process should look like for getting into the state of ihram prior to the Umrah is that whether it's the miqat or the airplane, you need to wear the ihram garments, and we'll talk a little bit about what the ihram garments look like both for men and women, right? And then obviously, if you're on land, you'll stop at the miqat point. If you're on the plane, you're going to be crossing over, right? And so there'll be an announcement on the plane, at which point you can actually go ahead and pray your 2 rak'at, right? Or at the miqat, you pray your 2 rak'at, and then the rest is the same. You have the intention to perform the Umrah, and you recite the talbiyah. Right? The intention for Umrah is very simple. You can do this in any language that you'd like. You can do this out loud or in your heart, right? So long as you know that this is what you're going for. This is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no need to say it in specific words, but if you wanted to, you could say, Allahumma labbayka umratan, right? Oh Allah, I am going to make it Umrah for your sake. Oh Allah, I'm coming to do Umrah for you, right? Or you could do it in your own language, or you could do it in any language, right? Oh Allah, I'm going to make Umrah, make it easy for me. Oh Allah, I intend to do Umrah for your sake, right? Or anything of the sort. And then we go on to recite the talbiyah, right? Which many of us are familiar with. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. The oh Allah, here I am. Oh Allah, here I am. Labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. I am here. La sharika lak. There is no partner for you. You have no partners. Labbaika, I am here, meaning I am coming to you. I am coming to your home to perform this great act. Innal hamda wa ni'mata lak. That indeed for you are all praises and all blessings. Wal mulka, and the sovereignty and kingship. La sharika lak. There is no partner to you. You have no partners, right? So we make the intention for the Umrah, and then we recite this talbiyah, and we continue reciting this talbiyah so long as we're in the state of ihram, so long as we are journeying to Makkah. Okay, a little bit on the ihram. Like I said, we're going to touch upon it, right? I also mentioned that some people have a misconception of what exactly is ihram. So we said ihram is the state of being where certain things become forbidden on you. So for men, it is forbidden to wear sewn clothes. What do they wear instead? Instead, they wear 2 pieces of plain unstitched garment. Oftentimes these are white garments, right? And for men, they cannot cover their head, they cannot cover their face. Okay, they are not allowed to wear socks, they are not allowed to wear shirts, turbans, trousers, underwear, hats, or anything of the sort, right? They must wear unstitched garments, and they must wear those 2 plain pieces of cloth. For women, the restrictions are much less. They can wear any sort of modest wear, any sort of Islamic dress, so long as they're not being immodest, right? And the 2 restrictions here are that the face may not be covered, right? And that the hands must not be covered. So you can't wear the gloves, nor can you wear the niqab. But women can wear socks, they can wear shirts, they can wear trousers, and they must wear hijab. Right? And so I spoke about how ihram is a state in which many things become forbidden. And so some of the don'ts of ihram, which are really important to keep in mind, is not to use scents. It says don't use perfume. So you can't use any sort of scent, whether it's soap, whether it's shampoo, whether it's deodorant, right? Or any other sort of skincare or hygiene care that has some sort of fragrance or scent to it. You cannot use it once you have entered the state of ihram. So a common misconception that people might have is that you are not allowed to use it before ihram. That is incorrect. You may before you wear the ihram, you may take a shower in which you are use any sort of soap, any sort of shampoo, conditioners, mouthwash, body wash, or anything that has scents in it. You can use that before entering the state of ihram. Once you have passed the miqat, whether on land or air, and you've prayed the 2 rak'at and you've made the intention, now you may no longer use these things. So you may have used it before, but now you may not use it, right? The same way, men cannot cover their head. We've spoken about that. We've also spoken about how men cannot wear clothes that are sewn, right? And instead, they're going to be wearing their 2 white garments. However, they are allowed to wear a belt, right? So sometimes people like to wear a fanny pack or a money belt. Over here, we recommend that all the men have their backpacks on them, the Haramain bags that we're going to be given. Those are also okay to wear. They do not go against or violate the terms of ihram. As for women, we already spoke about how women may not wear niqab or gloves. However, she can cover her face in other ways, right? As long as she's not wearing the cloth is not touching her face directly. Additionally, for both men and women, they should refrain from physical intimacy in the same way any sort of anything that leads to physical intimacy, as well as clipping of the nails, cutting of the hair, killing or hunting, and fighting, cursing, and gossiping all become extremely disallowed in these states. Right. And so now that we've spoken a little bit about what is not allowed in ihram, right, we're going to actually go forward in the Umrah journey. So we've passed the miqat, we're in the ihram state. Now we're reciting our talbiyah. The men are in their garb. The women are, refraining from those things which you've spoken about refraining from. Now we're going to actually talk about the steps of the Umrah, the procedure and the rituals that are going to take place. So the first ritual is called tawaf. Tawaf literally means to circulate or to go around something. And this is the ritual in which we circulate the Kaaba 7 times, right? and I should say we circulate the Kaaba counterclockwise 7 times, right? For the one condition for making tawaf is that you must have wudu. So you want to make sure that you have wudu before you enter the masjid, so that way you are performing the tawaf with wudu. And it's such that that even if your wudu breaks during tawaf, you can go, because there's water, and wudu areas available in the masjid. You can go make wudu and then come back and finish off the tawaf from where you left off, right?
So I'm aware that like all of us have seen pictures of the Kaaba or videos for Haram Live, but it's very important to understand the structure of the Kaaba, so it's easier for us to do the Umrah. It is very possible, you may go with the group, you're sticking with the group, and sometimes you may get lost. So it's very important to understand what is located and where things are located. So the Tawaf does start from the black stone, the Hajr Aswad, and the easiest way to identify if you're starting from the right location. So if you look at the corner of the Kaaba, that will be the most crowded place. And on the opposite end of it, on the actual masjid side of it, you will notice a green light, which is parallel to Hajar Aswad. So it makes it easier for you to see whether you're starting from the right side and whether you have reached the point of Hajar Aswad or not. From there, if you move right after the Hajar Aswad, you will see the door of the Kaaba. And right near it, you will also notice a small golden structure that is known as Maqam Ibrahim, which has a gold piece inside with the footsteps of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then right after that, the next corner is where you will notice a semicircle, which is known as the Hatim. So the next two corners are with the Hatim. And then as you keep walking ahead, you will reach Rukn Yamani, the Yemeni corner, from where you read recommended dua, inshallah, which will also be covered as we move along. And the corner after that, then you get back to the black stone. So it's very important to understand where things are located around the Kaaba, so you are comfortable just in case you decide to go do the Umrah on your own, or if you go decide to do Umrah again, maybe. So it's important to make yourself familiar with all these characteristics of the Kaaba and what is located around there.
Exactly. And it's really important to know where the black stone is or where that green light is, because to start the actual tawaf, that's exactly where the first circuit starts, the first round that you make. And then as you go around, once you come back to the black stone for the first time, that is your first round. And that's how you repeat it 7 times. So another 6 times for 7 in total, right? And so at the black stone, you make a gesture as if you were kissing it, right? So you can kiss your hand and kind of face it towards the black stone, and then you would read Bismillahi Wallahu Akbar. And then you start on your way. And so during the tawaf, as you circulate the Kaaba, you can make any sort of dua which comes to your heart, any sort of dua that, whether it's for yourself, for your family, for your friends, your loved ones, the community, or the Muslims at large, whatever comes to your heart is okay. As well as once you get to that end, that last side of the Kaaba before coming back to the black stone. So really from between the Rukn Yamani, the Yemeni corner, to the black stone, there is the dua that we know from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ, right? From Surah Baqarah, where it says that, oh Allah, give us goodness in this world and give us goodness in the next and save us from the fire. And this is the dua that you can read in that last when you're passing that last corner of the Kaaba. But other to that, you may recite anything that comes to your heart in any language that is easy to you. Next, you're going to, like Brother Harun mentioned, is Maqam Ibrahim. So at any point behind the Maqam Ibrahim, you should pray your 2 rakat of Sunnah. Now, many people have the misconception that they need to pray directly behind the Maqam Ibrahim. This is incorrect, especially because that is the area where the tawaf is actually taking place. So if you were to stand directly behind the Maqam Ibrahim and pray, you would not only be in the way for others while they're trying to make the tawaf, but you're also possibly harming yourself, because you might become, you might get lost in the crowd. So what they have actually done in the haram is they have arrangements, and you'll see that they've sectioned off areas where both the men and the women can pray their 2 rak'at behind the maqam Ibrahim, meaning at any place which comes after the maqam Ibrahim, and is not so far ahead to be in the actual tawaf area, right? So you really, after you've finished your last circuit, right, you finished your 7 and you've done your last, we call istilam, your last time saying Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and making a kissing motion towards the black stone, you go to any of these portions which are sectioned off. Like I mentioned, they often section it off based off men, one section for men, one section for women. You go into that area that's roped off and guarded, right, by the guards, and they let you know where to go. And then you pray your 2 rak'at, and you make any sort of du'as that you want for yourself. If there's something, a very specific du'a that you want to make for yourself, that would be the time to do it. And then once you're done with that, this is the time where you can actually go ahead and drink zamzam. And Zamzam is in abundance there. You'll find on every corner there is either, a sink with Zamzam or a faucet with Zamzam, or they have even like stalls where they're giving out Zamzam. So at any place you can grab, one of those plastic cups and grab some Zamzam for yourself. At the same time, you're making prayers and du'as for yourself, as well as if you have any ailments or some sort of pain. It's also recommended to pour the Zamzam over that place, or even over your head in general, right? And so now that you've done your tawaf, so we kind of consider the praying of the 2 rak'at and the drinking of the zamzam as part of that tawaf ritual, right? And now that you're done with that, you're going to move on to the next ritual of Umrah, which is the sa'i. Sa'i is where we are running or walking between the 2 hills of Safa and Marwa, and it basically commemorates the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's action, which she did for her son when she was looking for water for her son. Right, inshallah, we'll cover more of that, a little bit later on. So the sa'i, it starts from Safa and it ends at Marwa. So when you walk from Safa to Marwa, that is considered one circulation, right? And so then when you walk back from Marwa to Safa, that is another. And so you do this 7 times. So from Safa to Marwa, Marwa back to Safa, again and again. If you were to count that out, by the time you finish your 7th, you end off at Marwa, right? And so that's why we call it the running or the walking between Safa and Marwa. So again, you begin the sa'i at Safa, you make the 7 rounds between both of the hills. And like I said, between Safa to Marwa is 1 round, and Marwa to Safa is another round, right? You will see at some points there are green tube lights that demarcate like a small section of the walk. It's closer to the Safa side, right? This section is for for men only. They actually run a little bit faster in this area to commemorate Ibrahim alayhi salam's wife Hajra running faster in those areas. But that's only for the men, so they speed up a little bit, and us women keep our normal pace throughout. As for any specified du'as or anything, it says in Surah Baqarah, Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah, that Safa and Marwa are from amongst the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَنْ حَجَّ الْبَيْتَ أَوْ اعْتَمَرَ فَلَا جُنَاهَ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَطَّوَّفَ بِهِمَا. That whoever goes for Hajj or goes for Umrah, then there's no harm on him, or there's no sin for him to do tawaf between them, meaning to circulate between Safa and Marwa. In fact, we're supposed to do that. وَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا, and whoever does extra, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَاكِرٌ عَلِيمٌ, for indeed Allah Ta'ala is most thankful, most knowing. نَبْدَأُ بِمَا بَدَأَ اللَّهُ بِهِ, we begin with that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began with. So because in the ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with the word Safa, inna Safa wal Marwa, that is why we start from Safa. So when you go towards Safa Marwa, you may recite this ayah, and you may do whatever du'as come into your heart, again in any language that you'd like, and for any reason that you'd like, whether for yourself, for your family members, your loved ones, or the Muslim Ummah as a whole, right? And so once you've done this and you've ended off at the Marwa side, now you're ready to actually exit the Ihram. Your Umrah is complete. All of the rituals of Umrah are complete, and now you've come to the ending and you're ready to get out of the state of ihram. But before you can do that, you can't just go and take off your clothing. Rather, there is some the steps that you must take. So for the men, they must either trim or shave their hair, right? It's better to shave, but if they just like to trim a little bit off, that's okay as well. And then once that's done, whether it's the trimming or the shaving of the head, then they are out of the state of ihram. Now they may return to those things which were forbidden for them during the duration of the ihram, which includes wearing normal clothes, clipping nails, cutting hair, using fragrances, etc. For the women, of course, we're not shaving our heads, we're just merely trimming them. And it says either you can do it a fingertip or you can do an inch, just a little bit off of the ends of your hair, right, to take you out of the state of ihram. And again, everything which was forbidden in ihram is now lifted, and now you may again, cover your face, wear gloves, use perfumes, etc. Right, it's a common misconception also that someone who is in the state of ihram cannot clip their own hair to take themselves out of the state of ihram. That is incorrect. If you are in the state of ihram, once you have completed your sa'i, meaning you're done with the whole procedure of umrah and you're at the end and you come to marwa, you may clip your own hair to exit the state of ihram.
So a couple of tips and advice on Umrah. The first thing is very important to understand. Umrah is an individual ibadat. So when you do go perform your Umrah, other than the recommended du'as, make the other time available to make dua for family, for loved ones, for relatives, for anything that comes to heart. Make dua for yourself. Just keep that in mind, even if you're going with the group. It's important that you spend that time making dua on your own. And another thing which is very important to understand is walking at your own pace, walking what you're comfortable with. Some of us may like to walk much faster, some of us may like to walk much slower, some of us walk at normal pace. So these rituals, they are physically demanding. So it's very important to understand that whatever pace you walk on, it's much easier for you to walk on your own pace. In Tawaf, it's a little bit tough. You're just walking with the crowd. But when it comes to Safa Marwa, I even recommend families, have a meeting point just in case you're going on your own. Have a meeting point where everyone walks on their own pace and they come and they meet at a specific location. Usually you'll see a lot of people standing by the Marwa gate waiting for their family members. So if you walk at a fast pace, walk at that fast pace, because if you start walking at a slower pace, you will feel much more tired. And there is no restrictions on stopping. If you're not feeling well, take some rest, stop on the side, sit down. Usually, when we start Safa Marwa, after one or two rounds, we may get a little bit tired, stop to drink some Zamzam, and sit on the side if you need to. I'm going to also cover some more tips, inshallah, but it's very important to keep yourself hydrated. This is very important. I personally like to carry a refillable bottle. And anytime I go to Haram, for each prayer I'm going for, I fill it up with Zamzam. So I always have Zamzam between the prayers, even when I'm in the hotel. So try to drink as much Zamzam as possible. And you can carry these bottles while you're doing your Umrah as well, too. So fill it up, use it during the Umrah. It's okay, inshallah. And as Sister Rahima already mentioned, it's highly recommended that you carry the Ainul Haramain bag with you. It makes it easier for us to actually look for you as well too, because we can see the bag from far away, and so we can guide you to the next step. So let's say we're waiting for you during Tawaf. So we want to make sure we can go ahead and find you and guide you to go to the Sa'i, or inshallah get the whole group together and then head towards the Sa'i. And of course, already mentioned, but you can also wear socks as well, just for the women. And inshallah, in Haram, we do, out of respect for Haram, we shouldn't wear our slippers for the men or shoes for the women, unless you have a completely separate pair which is not being used outside. I have seen some women wearing shoes on that end as well too. And before we move on to, I know a few people may need some advice on wheelchairs, I do want to cover one last thing. It's very important that we understand we're going for prayer, we're going for ibadat when we're doing our umrah, and while staying in ihram for a long period of time, we do end up getting irritated. It's very hard to keep patience, to keep our sabr. So please make sure that you're not pushing anyone in haram. If you get pushed, forgive them, try to keep calm, inshallah, and continue with your tawaf, continue with your sa'i. It will happen on a frequent basis. There are huge crowds over there. So just keep these things in mind. You want to make sure you're keeping your patience when you're going. We will have a long test of patience on each place that we go over there. So just keeping these things in mind is very important, that if we get pushed, we just want to make sure we're not harming anyone, we're not pushing anyone back, and we're not cursing anyone out, keeping the restrictions of ihram, and respecting the holy places that we are visiting, the lands of Makkah and Medina. So, inshallah, another important thing that comes up all the time is accessibility issues. A lot of the times we are bringing our elders with us, and we want to make sure they're comfortable while they're performing their umrah. So, you do have a couple of different options. The first one is you can bring your own wheelchair. So if you plan to push your own family member and to try to take them to Umrah on your own, make sure you have a wheelchair with you. The hotels do have them available, but most of the time they're already booked out and other people have already taken them. So if you don't plan to take a wheelchair with you, you can always just purchase one from a pharmacy. They're usually around the $75 to $150 range. And your second option, if you don't require a wheelchair throughout the trip to go back and forth from Haram, you can always hire a authorized Haram personnel. They're in uniform, they're standing with the wheelchair, and the easiest way to get access to them, either you can start walking towards Haram from the room, and what they will do is they will stop you, they will take them on their own wheelchair, and you can make a deal with them for actually they will do the whole Umrah and they will get come and dropped off to the hotel lobby while you can go perform your own Umrah rituals, or you can stick around with them while they push your family members, and you can still go ahead and perform the Umrah with them as well. The last option that you have is also for electric wheelchair. So they are available on the third floor for Haram. And just keep in mind that you do need to rent them out, just like you're paying for the authorized Haram personnel. Same thing for the electric wheelchair. You can perform your tawaf on it and you can do your sa'i. They do have single seaters and double seaters. So if you're going with a family member, maybe they may not be able to run this electric scooter or electric wheelchair. You can go ahead and help them out on that end as well too. And like I was mentioning before, if you need a wheelchair, either take it from here, or you can go ahead and just purchase one as soon as you arrive in Saudi. And just keep these things in mind. We want to make sure everyone is comfortable. Sometimes we're performing our umrah, we're good to go for tawaf. Maybe someone who has problem walking, maybe they're okay to do the tawaf from downstairs in the mataf area, and then they may need a wheelchair during sa'i. Don't push your body to a point where you may get injured or harm yourself. Just make sure if you need a wheelchair, you use a wheelchair. And a lot of the times, people who may even require a wheelchair, most of the time they will do their tawaf from downstairs, because with the wheelchair, the only way to do tawaf is from the roof or the third floor or the second floor. And those rounds are much longer than the mataf area right next to the Kaaba. And inshallah, we will advise you throughout the trip as well too. So if you have any questions regarding this, please approach us during the journey or at the airport, inshallah. Let's continue with our presentation.
So another really important part of our trip is that after the Umrah, we'll be staying in Makkah or in Medina. And it's really important to know the virtues of praying in both cities. So there's a narration in which Rasulullah SAW actually mentions that prayer in Medina or in the Masjid Nabawi is actually like better than praying 1,000 times than in any other masjid in the world, right? And to pray in the Haram is better than one is better than 100,000 prayers anywhere else, right? And so then the scholars have actually commented on this, saying that when Rasulullah refers to the Haram of Makkah, he's not only referring to the actual masjid itself, but the entire city, which comes under the bounds of being haram, right? So in Medina, it's 1,000 times, and there's some narrations that even go up to 50,000, whereas in Makkah, it's 100,000 times, right? So we want to make sure that we catch as many of our salawat as possible in these blessed cities, and to take part in the jama'ah while we're there. So our next portion of the trip will be moving to Medina, right? And of course, the main reason as Muslims we visit Medina is to visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is buried there, and our belief is that he is there accepting, when we go to say our salam upon him, he's there accepting our salams, and replying to us. So our intentions going towards Medina should be to go visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to send lots of salat and salam upon him, and to get closer to him as well. And so a little bit of the etiquettes of giving salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can use any wording which you like. I put a very, very simple wording, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. So our belief is that he's alive in his grave, right? And so we can say salam to him in this wording, right? But you can use Durud Ibrahimi or any sort of longer wording that you would like. And so for the men, you're able to actually enter the masjid through the salam gate to make the salam, whereas for the women, we have two options because we will not be able to enter through the salam gate. It's only for the men. We can either do it from outside the masjid, close to where you see the green dome in this picture, where the green dome is, knowing that his body is buried underneath it, right? His gravesite is right underneath the green dome. Or if you'd rather do it from inside the masjid, when you go to visit the Roda, you can do it, give your salam from inside for the women, right? Again, you use words of salam and salat. They can be differing, but I just put a very simple one there, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, as well as, of course, holding the utmost respect. And another really, really important point is to not pray facing the grave, not to make dua facing the grave. Of course, making dua, you should face the qibla, or anything like that. And I know that for the brothers, it's a very quick process. It's not that, you go through the salam gate and you spend a lot of time there. It's more so you kind of are walking through and you just have, a few seconds as you're walking through to make the salam. And so it is a very quick process because you're not stopping, you're walking throughout the entire time. But just keeping in mind that the greatest of creation is present there, and knowing that a culmination of this whole trip is going and visiting him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so the whole time you're in Medina, you're always constantly sending salam and salat, but of course making a conscious effort to do that with respect. And lastly, there is a site in Medina called Masjid Quba, and this is actually one of the sites that we'll be visiting as part of our historical tour, but you're also more than welcome to visit outside of that as well if you would like. And the reason that we've mentioned it here is because it has a really interesting virtue, and a really great virtue is that Rasulullah is actually reported to have said in a hadith that the person who does their wudu from home, so obviously we'll be staying in the hotel, so we'll make our wudu from the hotel, and then goes to the Quba and prays 2 rak'ah there, the reward for it is the same reward as if you had performed in Umrah. So you're going from here to perform Umrah in the first place, but if you want multiple rewards of doing Umrah, you can actually get that just by going to Quba and praying the 2 rak'ah. So it's really an interesting site, both historically, as we'll mention later on, during our trip, but also because of the spiritual benefit that it has. And that's why we've mentioned it here, to again, to associate with that spiritual benefit that will come into place if you are able to visit and to pray the 2 rak'ah over there. And the same way, like we've mentioned, you always are more than welcome to make multiple intentions for these things, right? And so that you can also make the intention of following in the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he himself had done that. He's in another narration. It's reported that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would like to do that on a weekly basis. On Saturdays, he would actually go out and, or rather, he would perform his wudu from home and then go out to the Quba Masjid and to pray the 2 rak'ah there. So you're both, have the intention of gaining the reward of an umrah, but also in following the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and of course, being in his city, trying to get closer to him and trying to emulate him and grow your love for him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the same time. So at this point, we've kind of covered the majority of all of the ibadat that will take place on the trip, and we'd kind of like to open it up to any sort of questions that are related to